Oh boy, the plot thickens. What's going on, everybody? Good Friday morning. We have a continually developing situation in LA right now, and it's time to start wondering if there's even going to be a game between the Seahawks and the Rams on Sunday. So, yesterday, late in the day, like late afternoon, we got a little bit of an update on the situation. It got worse. It did not get better. It got worse. So the Rams had over a dozen players on their COVID list. And then we got word about Lockett and Alex Collins getting added to the COVID list with the Seahawks. And the Rams, later that afternoon, threw an additional 9 players on their reserve COVID-19 list. So the Seahawks, as of this moment, as far as I know, have 2 players who are in danger of missing this game. They need to produce negative tests in the next 2 days in order to play. And the Rams have 25. 2 of them are practice squatters, so that's fine, but 23 active roster players. 23. This latest batch includes Von Miller, the recently acquired via trade, Von Miller. We also had mostly players who don't play very much, like Tremaine Ankrum Jr., Antoine Brooks Jr., but we did see Bobby Evans, an offensive lineman who does play guard for them, and Troy Reeder, who has like 31 tackles, I think, for the Rams so far this year. So a couple guys who do play a little bit. So yeah, things got worse. This is a couple of starters, and nobody came off it. They didn't remove anybody from the list. And I don't know if they announced this kind of stuff, but they didn't announce that, oh, we got somebody who tested negative. They got to test negative one more time and we're good to go. Maybe they just don't announce that until after they get the second negative test, but we didn't hear about it. So that is now half a roster worth. Half a roster worth of players on the COVID-19 list for the Rams. Okay. Now, the NFL recently stated, this was actually just a couple of days ago, that they have no plan to postpone or cancel games, despite the fact that teams like Washington and Cleveland have a bunch of players on their COVID list, and the Rams at that point already had 16. They said no, they're not going to do it. But is that going to hold at this point? Just to remind you guys, these players on this list are added to a list that includes Jalen Ramsey, Odo Beckham Jr., Rob Havenstein, Sebastian Joseph Day. Guys who play, guys who are good, guys who are very valuable. And straight up, do you get the impression that this is going to get better? I don't. I fully expect later today we're going to find another batch of Rams getting added to the COVID-19 list because this, what are they calling it, Omicron variant? It seems to spread like wildfire. Now, it's not the threat to somebody's life that other variants were, but regardless, it keeps you out of action. So now that the Rams have half a roster worth and counting, and it will probably go up later today, we'll revisit that later. And you add that to the fact that it is very possible that the Seattle Seahawks are going to have a couple other positives just because of how this thing is spreading and because it obviously does not give a rip about the vaccine. It's looking like something is going to need to be done about this game. So going through the possibilities of how this plays out, because we got a little more than 2 days. One, this could blow over. All these guys are vaccinated. All of these guys just need to produce 2 positive tests. It is possible that between now and the game, a lot of these players or enough of these players produce some negative tests and they're able to go. Guys like Rob Havenstein, Jalen Ramsey, Tyler Lockett, if they can produce a couple negative tests, then maybe the NFL will just go, okay, crisis averted, let's just tough it out for this one game and hope things clear up. That is certainly something that can happen, but barring that, and given the fact that they're probably going to have to make a decision before we get the flood of hopefully negative tests. What else could happen here? So you could just play the game. You could just say, hey, sorry, Rams, go sign some guys off the street, promote all your practice squatters, go pull some guys out of retirement. Whatever you have to do to field a full team, just do it. And if the Seahawks get hit hard with this thing and it really spreads through their roster, then same to them. And if that happens, then odds are good that we're going to be facing a very wounded Rams team that, even though this Seahawks team is not very good, they should be able to beat. And I say that knowing that they may not. But if the Rams are missing all these pieces and they're missing all this depth and they're just scrambling to put together a full roster, you should be able to win that game, period. And after that, as an option, you could delay the game. But apparently, according to some things that I've read, the NFL is very resistant to that because it's so late in the season. Teams don't have bye weeks that you can move around to make up a game. And there just isn't a whole lot of time. The NFL wants to stay on schedule here, and they don't want to add another regular season week. So it seems like they're not willing to do that this late in the season. However, for the sake of argument, you could try to move the game to Tuesday night. You could play it on Tuesday night or Wednesday night and say, hey, hopefully things clear up by then, and we're going to give you a few extra days. And it's going to suck for you guys the following week because you're going to have such a short week, but teams are used to having short weeks sometimes. We do it frequently with Thursday Night Football now. So that strikes me as a very realistic possibility. They could just cross their fingers that moving the game to Tuesday or Wednesday is good enough. And then we basically get a little mini bye week, and then we have a short week. It's certainly an option. And removing all of that, I guess the only other thing they could do is make the Rams forfeit, which seems kind of weird because the Rams didn't do anything wrong here. It's not like they had a bunch of unvaccinated players that they needed to live with the results of. These players were vaccinated. So if the vaccine that they were provided did not provide any protection against this COVID, then it seems a little weird to try to punish them by giving them a loss. I don't think the NFL would do that, but we are getting to the point now where this is going to be an interesting test study. How does the NFL respond to this? It's very possible that this, in 8 to 10 hours, the Rams are going to have like 40 players on this list. They're not going to be able to field a full roster even if they try, so the NFL is going to be obligated to try to do something. The only other thing I can think of is that they cancel the game, which I don't know how that would work. But this is quite an interesting scenario. I don't know exactly what we're going to get, but I'm interested to see how the NFL responds. If I had to guess, my best guess, they're going to try to move the game. Unless things really start to clear up starting immediately. If they start seeing a bunch of negative tests come back from these guys and they go, oh, okay, they're going to be good to go, maybe they just play it. But I think they're going to end up being forced to move a game to Tuesday. So we'll see. That's my best guess, but this is a very interesting situation. We are not the only team in this situation, by the way. We've got the Browns and Washington, I think. So we'll see what the NFL does, but let me know what you guys think down below. I'm out of here. Peace out. Go Hawks. It's fun theater.